Forget everything you think you know about dinosaurs from the movies. Seriously, the real story, the real animals, they were stranger, way more colorful, and honestly, a lot more fascinating than Hollywood ever imagined. So today, let's peel back those layers of fiction and find the scientific truth. Okay, so when I say the word dinosaur, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's some giant, green, scaly lizard thing, right? Roaring on an island somewhere. Well, what if I told you that picture we all have, it's almost completely wrong? On the one hand, you've got the movie myth, these big, slow, scaly monsters. But the scientific reality we now know, it's a whole different picture. We're talking about an incredibly diverse group of animals, many of them fast, a lot of them looking surprisingly like birds, and, this is the big one, often covered in feathers. Yep, you heard me right, feathers. Discoveries of feathered fossils, especially out of China, have just completely turned our understanding on its head. So forget those leathery hides. Instead, I want you to picture something more like a giant and, in some cases, terrifying bird. This one little fact changes absolutely everything about how they looked, how they moved, and how they lived. And hey, while we're busting myths, let's get a huge one out of the way. You know those flying creatures with the big leathery wings, like the pterodactyls? Turns out they weren't dinosaurs at all. They belong to a totally separate group called pterosaurs. Think of it this way, a bat flies and a bird flies, but you'd never call a bat a bird, right? Same idea. All right, I've got a question for you. Think about the king, the most ferocious predator to ever walk the planet, the Tyrannosaurus rex. Now, what animal that's alive today do you think is its closest living relative? Maybe a crocodile? A lizard? Just give it a second's thought. The answer is the chicken. And no, that is not a joke. Modern birds are the direct descendants of a group of two-legged, meat-eating dinosaurs called theropods. And that group includes the mighty T-Rex. So, yeah, the next time you see a chicken pecking around, just remember you're basically looking at a tiny, feathered dinosaur cousin. So it wasn't just feathers that made these creatures so incredible. I mean, dinosaurs really pushed the absolute limits of biology. So now let's take a look at some of the wild, record-breaking stats that show just how extreme the dinosaur world really was. So let's talk about the longest dinosaur we know of, the Argentinosaurus. To give you a sense of scale, you'd need to park 4 fire trucks end to end to match its length. 4. An animal as long as 4 fire trucks? I mean, just try to wrap your head around that. It's almost impossible. And then, on the complete polar opposite end of the spectrum, you have this little guy. The smallest known dinosaur, Oculodentavis, was about the size of today's bee hummingbird, the smallest bird in the world. So you've got creatures longer than a basketball court and creatures that could fit in the palm of your hand, all in the same animal family. And hey, for a fun little record, here is the dinosaur with the longest name. Go on, try to say it. Micropachycephalosaurus. It's a bit of a mouthful, right? 23 letters, which is kind of funny because the creature itself was actually pretty small. Some of these dinosaurs had just the most bizarre anatomy. Take the Diplodocus, for example. Its tail, just the tail alone, stretched an incredible 46 feet. That's longer than a school bus. And scientists think it could crack that tail like a giant whip for defense. The diversity is it's staggering. We've identified over 900 different species, and that number's growing all the time. Oh, and here's a really cool rule of thumb for you. If a dinosaur walked on 4 legs, it was a plant eater. Every single one. Only the ones that walked on 2 legs were meat eaters. Okay, so the individual species are mind-blowing, but what about their reign as a whole? Let's zoom out a bit and look at just how long and how far their dynasty truly stretched across the planet. Now, this is going to blow your mind. To put their timeline into perspective, the first dinosaurs showed up around 240 million years ago. Okay, that's a long time. But sharks? Sharks have been swimming in our oceans for 450 million years. That means sharks are older than dinosaurs. They're even older than trees. It really gives you a sense of just how deep time can be. And their rule wasn't just limited to one area of the globe. Oh no, dinosaurs were a truly global dynasty. We found their fossils on every single continent. North America, South America, Asia, and yep, even in the frozen expanses of Antarctica, which was, a lot warmer back then. They truly owned this planet. So how in the world do we know all of this stuff? How do scientists take these little fragments of bone and piece together such an incredible story? Well, in our last section here, we're going to look at a few of the clues and techniques that these modern dino detectives use every day. One of the biggest aha moments connecting dinosaurs to birds is something you can't even see from the outside. A lot of those theropod dinosaurs, just like the birds we see today, had hollow bones. This would have made them way lighter, way more agile, which, is a pretty perfect feature to have if you're eventually going to evolve to fly. All right, here's a fun and slightly weird, but totally true trick they use out in the field. To figure out if you found a real fossil or just a plain old rock, paleontologists actually use a lick test. See, a real fossil is porous, so it'll stick just a tiny bit to your tongue. A rock won't. Our fascination with these animals is nothing new, by the way. They've been capturing our imagination for a lot longer than you might think. This quote here is from Charles Dickens's novel Bleak House, which came out way back in 1852. He's talking about the Megalosaurus, one of the very first dinosaurs ever to be given a name. So even then, people were amazed by them. So our picture of the dinosaur is always changing, always evolving, getting weirder and more wonderful with every new bone we dig up. From feathered giants to tiny predators the size of a hummingbird, they were so much more complex than we ever gave them credit for. And that just leaves you with one big question, doesn't it? What other amazing truths are still buried out there, just waiting to be uncovered?